UFOs are not all the same. They have different shapes, sizes, and flight modes. In this documentary, we will talk about flying triangular objects and the famous sightings of these flying triangles in Belgium, Phoenix, and Tinley Park. But what if we told you that there are aircraft with the same shape and probably the same technology that are not used by unknown extraterrestrial entities, but instead by the US military? We are talking about the TR-3B Astra, an aircraft or an entire family of US spy planes with different evolutionary stages that already appeared in the 90s, certainly photographed in the sky above Belgrade during the 1999 bombings. Many analysts suspect that in addition to being a stealth aircraft with hypersonic flight capability, it is powered by nuclear energy from fission, derived from the NERVA program, an acronym for a joint program of the Atomic Energy Commission and NASA, managed by the Space Nuclear Propulsion Office, that scientifically demonstrated that the engines of a nuclear thermal rocket were a possible and reliable tool for space exploration. In fact, at the end of 1968, the program certified that the most recent engine tested met the requirements for a manned mission to Mars. However, some ufologists go so far as to hypothesize that it possesses some characteristics and technologies unknown to us Earthlings, which would make it an extraterrestrial-derived aircraft. Or more simply, that US scientists and military learned about this advanced technology through the study and analysis of the remains of alien aircraft found on Earth, the most emblematic case undoubtedly being that of Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. We will now talk about the characteristics of these particular aircraft, but in the course of our documentary we will deepen our knowledge about this topic and talk about it more in detail. The TR-3B would have, at its base, a gigantic ring full of mercury, which, once it reaches a certain temperature through more than 10,000 revolutions per minute, transforms into plasma, generating a powerful fluctuating magnetic field, which would also produce a weight reduction of about 70%, constituting in practice anti-gravity that would allow the vehicle to reach incredible speeds. The aircraft is also in possession of a liquid hydrogen-cooled nuclear fission reactor, which supplies energy to the magnetic torus and preheats the hydrogen destined for various nozzles and engines, increasing combustion efficiency and therefore also thrust. The propulsion thrusters are different. 3 are at the base and provide an upward thrust that allows vertical takeoff and landing. Others are positioned laterally, where hydrogen combustion takes place that allows the aircraft to reach supersonic speeds. Still others, called aerospike thrusters, guarantee stability during hypersonic flight in the stratosphere and in space. It also has several common characteristics of stealth aircraft: ferrite coating on the exterior and a powerful electrostatic charge on the surfaces, which would also provide an additional boost in flight. Powerful devices to destabilize enemy radars on multiple frequencies, and laser pointers to disable infrared guided missiles and to blind enemy fighter pilots. Many, obviously, wonder how exactly the TR-3B works and what the specific characteristics that allow it to reach speeds that are even difficult to imagine actually are. Later in the documentary, also through the explanations of international physics experts, we will go into more detail on the functioning of these aircraft. Many scholars of UFO phenomenology also argue that there will be several bases of reference in the United States for this type of aircraft, namely in the sparsely populated states of Alaska, Colorado, and Utah. Speaking of UFOs, many triangular UFO sightings are confused or mistaken for alien vehicles, but in reality it is the TR-3B, an aircraft naturally unknown to most because it is classified as top secret. Likewise, not all triangular UFO sightings are traceable to the TR-3B. Many of them are actually unknown craft of extraterrestrial origin. In particular, a type of triangular-shaped unidentified flying objects, also called black triangles, flying triangles, or big black deltas. Reports of this specific type of UFO have occurred mainly in the United States of America and in the United Kingdom since the end of the 80s, and mainly during the evening and night hours. Witnesses of these sightings have described these alleged objects as dark-coloured triangles with white lights at their vertices, and sometimes the presence of a fourth red light placed in the centre of the triangle has been reported. Three are the most famous cases of triangular UFO sightings in the world: the Belgian wave of 1989-1990, in which a series of triangular UFO sightings occurred in Belgium; the Phoenix sighting, where, on March 31st, 1997, some lights in a triangular formation were observed; and the lights of Tinley Park, where, between 2004 and 2006, there was a series of mass sightings of three red lights arranged in a triangular formation. The Belgian UFO wave was a series of triangular UFO sightings in Belgium lasting from November 29th, 1989 until April 1990. The wave reached its peak with the events that occurred on the night between the 30th and the 31st of March 1990. On that night, unknown flying objects were tracked by radars, and two Belgian Air Force F-16s were sent to investigate. However, neither of the two pilots reported seeing the object. Not only that same night, the UFOs were photographed and sighted by some 13,500 people on the ground, 2,600 of whom issued official written statements detailing what they had seen. Following the incident, the Belgian Air Force released a report detailing the events of that night. At around 11 p.m. on the 30th of March 1990, the supervisor at the Control Reporting Center, CRC, at Glons, received reports that three unusual lights had been seen moving towards Thorenberg-en-Bleu, southeast of Brussels. The lights were brighter than the stars, changing colour between red, green and yellow, and appearing to be fixed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle. At this point, the Glons CRC asked the Wavre Gendarmerie to send a patrol to confirm the sighting. About 10 minutes later, a second set of lights was seen moving towards the first triangle. Around 11:30 p.m, the patrol confirmed the initial sighting, and the CRC was able to observe the phenomenon on their radars. At that moment, the second set of lights, after some erratic maneuvering, had also formed into a similar triangle. After tracking the targets and receiving a second radar confirmation from the Semedzake Traffic Control Center, the Glons CRC gave the order for two F-16 fighter jets to scramble from Beauvaichon Air Force Base shortly before midnight. All this time, the phenomenon was still clearly visible from the ground, and witnesses described the entire formation maintaining its position and triangular shape as it moved slowly across the sky. Witnesses also reported the presence of two dimmer lights towards the municipality of Eggerzy, which showed similar movements to the second set of lights. Over the next hour, the two F-16s made 9 attempts to intercept their targets. On only 3 of these occasions were they able to get a radar lock for a few seconds, but each time the targets changed position and speed so rapidly that the lock was broken. During the first radar lock, the target accelerated from 240 to over 1,770 km an hour as it changed altitude from 2,700 meters to 1,500 meters, and then reached 3,350 meters before descending almost to ground level. The first descent, at more than 900 miles per hour, lasted less than 2 seconds. Similar maneuvers were observed during subsequent brief radar intercepts. At no time were the F-16 pilots able to make visual contact with the targets. In subsequent statements provided by the Belgian government, it was said that these brief radar locks referred to the F-16s themselves. That is, according to the government, the pilots of the two military aircraft would have detected and locked onto each other. Assuming that this could be true, how could two experienced pilots fail to notice such a situation while already in flight? But above all, as the narrator Robert Stack declared in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, the sudden changes in acceleration and deceleration actually detected by the radars would have been fatal for the two pilots. In addition, many eyewitnesses on the ground largely confirmed the information obtained from the radars. They described seeing the smaller triangle suddenly disappear entirely from view, while the larger triangle moved upwards, much more rapidly than the F-16s. At midnight, radar contacts became much more sporadic, and the last confirmed lock occurred at 40 minutes past midnight. This final lock was once again interrupted by a sudden acceleration of about 160 to 1,120 kilometers an hour, after which the radars of the F-16s and those of Glonz and Semadzake lost contact. After several more unconfirmed contacts, the F-16s returned to base shortly after 1 a.m. Final details of the sighting were provided by the members of the Vrav Gendarmerie who had been sent to confirm the original report. They described 4 lights arranged in a square formation, all with short, jerky movements, before gradually losing their brightness and disappearing in 4 separate directions around 1:30 a.m. In April 1990, a photo of the craft was taken by an anonymous photographer, one of the most famous UFO images to date. However, some experts contested the fact that the photo does not show any background or anything that allows you to calculate its size or distance of the object from the camera. A computer graphics simulation method has even been tested at the Astrophysics Laboratory of the University of Liège by a Belgian mathematician, Professor TR-3 to extract as much information as possible from the image. However, what has been said so far, together with the anonymity of the photographer and the fact that the image was not publicly produced until 4 months after the alleged event, has cast doubt on the authenticity of the image itself. For 20 years, the ufological organization, the Belgian Society for the Study of Space Phenomena, SOBEPS, claimed that this image was authentic. Then, on July 26, 2011, in an interview for a Belgian television channel, a man named Patrick Maréchal explained that it was a hoax and that he had artificially created that photograph. He even demonstrated how he created the UFO hoax by cutting a piece of styrofoam into a triangle, painting it black, embedding a flashlight in each corner, and hanging it from a string. Despite this, the fact remains that after having evaluated all the evidence acquired, the Belgian Air Force has deemed that it is unable to provide any explanation for the sighting, at the same time discarding the following hypotheses: aerostatic balloons, ultralight aircraft, unmanned aerial vehicles, known military aircraft, including stealth aircraft, laser projections or holograms, and meteorological phenomena. For completeness of information, we will report the summary of the official report of the Belgian Air Force on the UFO events observed during the night of March 30th, 1990. Since the beginning of December 1989, the BAF, or the Belgian Air Force, has been contacted on several occasions by eyewitnesses who had observed strange phenomena in Belgian airspace. On some occasions, they described the sighted object as a triangular-shaped platform up to 200 feet wide, with 3 searchlights moving downwards, hovering more than 100 meters above the ground and emitting only a very slight buzzing sound. Some witnesses saw the object speed away after very rapid acceleration. All the observations were made in the evening or during the night. Radar stations that had been alerted by eyewitnesses were unable to reliably establish a correlation between the visual observations and their detection on the radar. On 2 occasions, the BAF scrambled 2 F-16s during the evening hours. On the first occasion, the F-16 arrived about an hour after the visual sighting and nothing was observed. On the second occasion, the pilots were able to identify a laser beam projector on the ground. However, after the investigations, it emerged that the description of the observations totally differed from the phenomena previously described. Consequently, the Belgian Air Force, anxious to identify the origin of the phenomena, would have authorized the flight of the F-16s only if the following conditions were met: visual observations on the ground confirmed by the local police, and radar detection. On the 30th of March 1990 at 11 p.m, the master controller at Glon's Air Defense Radar Station received a telephone call from a person who stated that he had observed 3 independent flashing lights in the sky, which changed color with a much higher intensity light than that of the stars, and which formed a triangle. Weather conditions were clear skies with no clouds, light winds, and a small temperature inversion at 3,000 feet. The master controller in turn alerted the Wavre Gendarmerie, who confirmed the sighting at 11:30 p.m. In the meantime, the master controller had identified a radar contact approximately 8 miles north of the ground observation. The contact was moving westward at a speed of 25 kilometers per second and an altitude of 10,000 feet. Ground observers reported 3 more bright spots moving gradually with irregular speeds towards the first set of lights, forming a second triangle. At 11:50 p.m, a second radar station, located about 100 miles from the first, confirmed an identical contact at the same point as the Glon's radar contact. At 5 minutes past midnight, 2 F-16s were scrambled from Beauvaichon Air Base and guided towards the radar contacts. In total, 9 interception attempts were made. On 6 occasions, the pilots managed to establish a lock with their air intercept radars. Engagement distances varied between 5 and 8 miles. On all occasions, the targets changed speed and altitude very rapidly, and the lock broke off after 10 to 60 seconds. Speeds varied between 150 and 1010 kilometers per second. On 3 occasions, both F-16s registered simultaneous locks with the same parameters. The 2 F-16s were flying about 2 miles apart. None of the F-16 pilots were able to make eye contact with their target. The F-16s crossed the field of observation inferred from the testimonies of people on the ground 3 times. On the 3rd pass, several eyewitnesses noticed a change in the behavior of the bright spots. The brightest one started flashing while the others disappeared. After that, even the brightest spot started to gradually fade. Meanwhile, the Wavre Gendarmerie had alerted 4 other police stations in the area. All 4, 10 miles apart from each other, confirmed the visual observations. In conclusion, the Belgian Air Force was unable to identify either the nature or the origin of the phenomena. However, as we have stated, it had sufficient elements to rule out the following hypotheses. Aerostatic balloons, impossible due to the very high speeds reached by the observed phenomena, confirmed both visually and by radar. Ultralight vehicles, the same reasoning as for aerostatic balloons. Remotely piloted vehicles, impossible due to hovering characteristics incompatible with the observed maneuvers. Commercial and military aircraft, including stealth. They would have caused noise that was not detected by any of the witnesses. Laser projections or mirages, unlikely due to lack of projection surface, the absence of clouds. Additionally, the bright spots were observed from several locations and were seen to travel over a distance of more than 15 nautical miles. Furthermore, laser projections or mirages cannot be detected by radar. When we talk about the Phoenix Lights or Lights over Phoenix, we are referring to a series of unidentified flying objects sighted in the skies over the southwestern states of Arizona and Nevada on March the 13th, 1997. Lights of various types were seen by thousands between 7:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in an area approximately 300 miles from the border of Nevada through Phoenix to the Tucson border. Some witnesses described seeing what appeared to be a huge square UFO shaped like a steel square used in carpentry, from which emerged 5 spherical lights. There were 2 distinct events that took place that evening: a series of lights in a triangular formation that moved across the Arizona sky, and a series of fixed lights observed in the Phoenix area. On March the 13th, 1997 at 7:55 p.m, an eyewitness in Henderson, Nevada reported seeing a large V-shaped object moving southeast. At 8:15 p.m, an unidentified former police officer in Paulden, Arizona reported seeing a cluster of orange-red lights disappear on the southern horizon. Shortly thereafter, there were reports of lights being seen over Prescott Valley, once again in Arizona. Tim Lay, his wife Bobby, their son Hal, and their grandson Damian Turnage first saw the lights about 65 miles north of where they were as they looked up at the sky from their home in Phoenix. At first, the lights appeared to them as 5 separate and distinct arc-shaped lights. They soon realized that the lights were moving towards them. Over the next 10 minutes or so, the lights got closer and closer. The distance between them increased, and they took on the shape of an inverted V. Finally, when the lights were a couple of miles away, the family reported that they could make out 5 lights embedded in the aircraft, 1 in front and 2 on each side. The object continued to approach until it reached them, about 100 to 150 feet above their heads, travelling so slowly as to give the impression of a suspended and silent object. Then the aircraft continued its flight, crossing an opening in the peaks of the mountain range towards Piestewa Peak Mountain, and finally disappeared on its way towards Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. When it finally got here and we realized this thing was going across the sky above our heads, we really started to get anxious, Lay told CNN. Tim Lay also reported that when the right side of what appeared to be a giant V-shaped aircraft passed over his house, it was so large that the left side was about a couple of blocks away. His wife Bobby, who also witnessed the spectacle, said the sheer scale of the aircraft they saw was overwhelming. But she added, it didn't feel threatening. When it was right above us, we couldn't hear a sound. It was like there was nothing there. The Lays are among hundreds of witnesses who have been interviewed regarding the Phoenix Lights. However, the family is considered among the most reliable, and their testimony as decisive regarding the study of the phenomenon, because their stories are very detailed and moreover, they were very close to the aircraft. Tim Lay is sure his family will never forget what they saw that night. The sight of that huge, mysterious flying object changed his view of the UFO phenomenon, transforming him from a skeptic to someone open to listening to the experiences of UFO believers. Between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m, several witnesses in Glendale, a northwest suburb of Phoenix, saw the light formation pass overhead, at an altitude high enough for it to be obscured by clouds. Amateur astronomer Mitch Stanley of Scottsdale, Arizona, also observed the high-flying lights in triangular formation through a telescope. At about 10 p.m. that same evening, large numbers of people in the Phoenix area reported seeing a string of bright lights hovering in the sky. Numerous photographs and videos were taken, prompting the author Robert Schaefer to describe the Phoenix event as the most widely witnessed UFO event in history. This is because the night of the sighting, March the 13th, 1997, was one of the best nights to see the bright Hale-Bopp comet with the naked eye, and large numbers of people went outdoors to observe it. Instead, they were surprised to see something else happening in the sky. Shortly after the 1997 incident, Arizona Governor Fife Symington III gave a press conference, joking that his chief of staff, dressed in an alien costume, was responsible for the observed phenomenon. But later, in 2007, Symington reportedly told a UFO investigator that he had had a personal close encounter with an alien spacecraft, but remained silent at the time because he didn't want to panic the public. According to Symington, before entering politics, he was an Air Force pilot, and therefore he was perfectly familiar with every object capable of flying. He swears that what appeared on the night of March the 13th was bigger than anything a human being could ever see in his life. Symington said that he has tried privately to investigate the sightings, but has come up with no conclusions. Simply, according to the former governor, it was an otherworldly event and inexplicable according to the canons of human knowledge. The Tinley Park lights phenomenon refers to a series of 4 mass UFO sightings that occurred in 2004 in August and October, 2005 in October, and 2006, once again in October, at Tinley Park and Oak Park in Chicago, Illinois. On these occasions, 3 lights, spherical in shape and colored from bright red to orange red, were observed arranged in a triangle and moving slowly in the night sky without making any noise. The first sighting occurred on August the 21st, 2004 at 10:30 p.m. at the end of an Ozzy Osbourne concert. The lights were seen by several witnesses who took numerous photos and videos. The second sighting occurred 71 days later, on October the 31st, 2004 at around 8 p.m. It was also observed by several witnesses, children and adults, who were on the streets for Halloween. The lights later reappeared on the 1st of October 2005 at 1:10 a.m. and also on this occasion several people witnessed the event. A further sighting occurred on October the 31st, 2006 around 8 p.m, once again at Halloween. Late in the evening of August the 21st, 2004, thousands of people leaving the Chicago leg of Ozfest, the musical festival featuring Ozzy Osbourne, got stuck in slow post-concert traffic. Many people suddenly noticed that there were strange lights in the sky, described by many as 3 reddish lights, which didn't look like any conventional aircraft. Many of the concert attendees had cameras and video cameras, which they used to record the incident. This created a rare situation, where UFO researchers were presented with many videos, shot from different angles and with different types of cameras. Just over 2 months later, similar lights were seen again in the area. On the evening of October the 31st, 2004, a witness officially stated that at about 8 p.m. he sighted 3 bright red lights to the east. The lights gradually formed a large L in the sky. They moved very slowly and there was no noise, at least not the noise a plane or a helicopter would make. Then it seemed that they were approaching each other. They changed formation and went first into a straight perpendicular vertical formation, then into a triangular formation, 1 light up, 2 lights down. Then the higher light suddenly dropped and went out of place. Finally, slowly, it disappeared. The other 2 lights continued to move, slowly, without changing position. Then they gradually moved away from each other. It was a cloudy and misty night, and eventually they too disappeared from sight. Finally, at about 9:20 that same evening, another bright red light was seen moving east, by itself. It was only visible for a few minutes, then it quickly disappeared. MUFON, the world's largest UFO research and study organization, investigated the 2004 sightings and reported that people who had come forward as witnesses included meteorologists, physicists, and aviation professionals. An investigation summary posted on the Illinois chapter of MUFON's website states that, in one video, the object appeared at altitudes between 1,500 and 6,500 feet, was suspended at approximately 4,000 feet, and appeared to have the incredible length of 5,000 feet. The testimonies of the sightings differ in some details. Witness accounts can be divided into two main groups. The first are those who maintain that the lights appeared to remain in a strictly triangular formation the whole time, as if they were fixed to the vertices of a large, unilluminated triangular object, an object of the big black deltas type. The second are those who perceived independent movements, as if the lights came from three different objects. Some witnesses also reported seeing conventional military aircraft, planes and helicopters moving in circles in the vicinity of the lights. Similar lights were observed earlier than Tinley Park in many parts of the American continent, including British Columbia and throughout the Northwest, as well as Texas. Several days later, two groups of three lights were filmed in Australia. The sighting has been defined as one of the most documented UFO sightings in the United States of America in recent history. The events were covered by local news and newspapers, as well as radio and television programs. On October 29, 2008, the History Channel also covered the events of Tinley Park in the program UFO Hunters, in which an analysis of the sighting footage was made. To demonstrate the object's behavior, the program hosts used the GPS locations of the footage, the elevation angles of the lights relative to the horizon, and the movements of the lights themselves. The conclusion was that the lights moved in unison and were most likely connected. Through the relative perspectives of the videos, taken from different locations, they estimated the dimensions of the hypothetical object that connected them to be close to 750 feet wide. For those who are absolutely convinced that extraterrestrial life exists, the lights of Tinley Park are real and concrete proof that we are not alone in the universe. The History Channel series dedicated a full hour to this event. Under normal circumstances, people are reluctant to come forward to report a UFO sighting, says Sam Maranto, head of the Illinois Department of MUFON. It tends to be less of a problem with mass sightings, because when a mass of people all see the same thing, nobody can call you crazy. After seeing the footage, Maranto was convinced that the lights were of alien origin. There's something about them, they just don't seem from this world, says Maranto. Furthermore, when somebody hypothesizes that it could simply be a top-secret military aircraft, Maranto counters by asking, if that were the case, why would the government take it for a test drive in one of the busiest commercial airspaces in the world? There are no known official investigations into the Tinley Park sightings by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, or other agencies, nor any particular concern for public safety, although the presence of mysterious aircraft of unknown origin should be taken very seriously and addressed by law enforcement. The Tinley Park police chief said the local police department had received reports of the sightings, but had not launched an investigation. No unexpected or extraneous radar patterns were made public by the FAA following the events. This leads to ruling out the possibility that they were conventional aircraft or helicopters. The hypothesis that was initially advanced was that the observation of the lights was connected with the Chicago Air-Water Show, an aeronautical event that takes place annually between August the 20th and August the 22nd. However, due to the absence of the necessary navigation lights and the highly unconventional characteristics of the objects, it seems unlikely that these were conventional aircraft. Another of the hypotheses initially advanced was the one that suggested that the lights were military lighting flares, incendiary sources of light attached to parachutes, designed to illuminate ground targets, sometimes seen at Air Force aircraft exercises. However, in this case, The extensive footage and eyewitness accounts are inconsistent with any slow, wind-accompanied descent normally associated with flares. Furthermore, the video footage seems to suggest a lingering connection between the lights. It should also be considered that the aircraft flying over these dense Chicago suburbs are part of the adjacent operating area, which is in the vicinity of two major airports, Chicago Midway International Airport and Chicago O'Hare International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. The heavy traffic in this commercial airspace makes scheduling military exercises of any kind unlikely and risky, especially regarding the illumination of ground targets over a metropolitan area. However, Ted Ackworth, a contributor to the UFO Hunters show, verified this possibility by speaking with the Scott Air Force Base and found no military activity in the affected area on the evenings of August the 21st and October the 31st, 2004. Despite the various hypotheses, definitive conclusions have not been reached, and the origin of the objects remains unknown, even today. As promised, we will now talk more specifically and in depth about the characteristics of the TR-3B aircraft. This military aircraft has aroused a lot of interest among professionals and enthusiasts in general, because it is a triangular-shaped, nuclear-powered aircraft. The few witnesses who have managed to spot a TR-3B all say they will never forget the sight of that extraterrestrial-looking aircraft whizzing through the sky. The TR-3B, of which we have the most information, is pitch black in colour and naturally triangular in shape, and has been mentioned, albeit only in a whisper and very rarely, inside the secret structure of Groom Lake, where one of the first government officials who would later recount the sighting of the secret aircraft worked. The TR-3B flew over the Groom Lake runway in complete silence, stopped over Area S4, hovering for about 10 minutes without making any noise, and finally, still in complete silence, landed on the Groom Lake runway, resting gently, vertically on the asphalt. Occasionally, a sort of corona of silvery blue light shone around the circumference of the TR-3B, which measures approximately 600 feet in diameter. The TR-3B is codenamed Astra. As mentioned, the first operational flight of the TR-3B for tactical reconnaissance dates back to the early 1990s. The triangular-shaped, nuclear-powered aerospace platform originated under the top-secret Aurora program with SDI funds and the so-called Black budget. Aurora is the most highly ranked aerospace development program in the world. As early as 1994, at least 3 TR-3Bs had been developed and built, costing over $1 billion each. The project was funded and operated by the National Reconnaissance Office, the NSA, and the CIA. The exterior coating of TR-3B vehicles is responsive to electrical stimulation from radars and can absorb energy, change reflectivity, and change color. As mentioned, this polymer coating, when used in conjunction with the electronic countermeasures available to the TR-3B, can fool radar receivers into making the aircraft look like a small aircraft, or make it look different, or even detect a variety of aircraft, no aircraft, or several aircraft at various and distant locations. The Sandia and Livermore laboratories have developed the magnetic field disruptor technology, or, as we have already explained, the ring full of plasma that surrounds the base of the aircraft, with very advanced engineering. The mercury-based plasma is pressurized to 250,000 atmospheres at a temperature of 150 degrees Kelvin and accelerated to 50,000 RPM to create superconducting plasma with the resulting gravity disturbance. The MFD generates a magnetic vortex field that disrupts or neutralizes the effects of gravity on nearby mass by 89%. It is not actual anti-gravity, but it is very close. This anti-gravity provides a repulsive force that can be used for propulsion. The MFD creates a break in the Earth's gravitational field on the mass inside the circular accelerator. The mass of the circular accelerator and all mass within the accelerator, such as the crew capsule, avionics, MFD systems, fuels, crew environmental systems, and nuclear reactor, is reduced by 89%. This has the effect of making the vehicle extremely light and capable of outperforming and maneuvering any vehicle yet built, except, of course, UFOs, which we Earthlings certainly didn't build. The propulsion of the TR-3B is provided by 3 multi-mode thrusters mounted on each lower corner of the triangular platform. The TR-3B is a sub-Mach 9 vehicle until it reaches altitudes above 20,000 feet, at which point it is unimaginable what speed it can reach. The 3 multi-mode rocket engines mounted under each corner of the vehicle use hydrogen and oxygen as a propellant. In a liquid oxygen-hydrogen rocket system, 85% of the propellant mass is oxygen. The nuclear thermal rocket engine uses hydrogen propellant, augmented with oxygen for extra thrust. The reactor heats the liquid hydrogen and injects liquid oxygen into the supersonic thruster so that the hydrogen burns simultaneously in the liquid oxygen afterburner. The multi-mode propulsion system can operate in the atmosphere with nuclear reactor thrust, in the upper atmosphere with hydrogen propulsion, and in orbit with combined hydrogen-oxygen propulsion. It should be remembered that the 3 rocket engines only have to push 11% of the TR-3B's mass. The engines would have been built by the Rockwell Company. The performance of the TR-3B is naturally limited only to the stress that human pilots are able to withstand. The first images of the TR-3B were taken in Belgium on March 31st, 1990, while it was again spotted in Idaho in 2000 when it flew within 200 feet of some people who were camping. The campers said it was quiet, aside from a little buzzing when it moved. Rumours have been circulating for some time about an imminent official disclosure of the existence of the TR-3B by the US government. Will that really be the case? The TR-3B is not unique. There are also other aircraft used by the US military that exploit technologies not from this planet. There have been claims of at least 14 other types of man-made anti-gravity aerospace vehicles with alien technology, that is, using anti-gravity or low-gravity technology derived from extraterrestrial knowledge. These 14 aircraft are the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, the F-22 Raptor Advanced Stealth Fighter, its successor, the F-35 Lightning II Advanced Stealth Fighter, the Aurora spaceship, Lockheed Martin's X-33A wedge-shaped space fighter, the Lockheed X-22A two-man anti-gravity disc, the TR-3A pumpkin seed craft, Northrop's Great Pumpkin disc, Teledyne Ryan Aeronautical, now Northrop Grumman's XH-75D Shark anti-gravity helicopter, the Northrop's Quantum Teleportation disc, the Boeing Phantom Works TR-3B Black Manta and larger TR-3 Astra triangular anti-gravity crafts, the Nautilus Deep Space ship, and the Hydro Aerospace underwater craft HAUC, better known by the name Tic Tac. Now we'll take a closer look at these 14 advanced man-made craft that operate using anti-gravity technology. The amount of information available for each of them varies. In some cases, more is known. In others, very little. The information reported here is available thanks to the work of Dr. Richard Boylan, internationally renowned UFO researcher and leading expert on star visitors. He is a PhD psychologist, anthropologist of stellar cultures, research scientist, and University Associate Professor Emeritus of Psychology. Dr. Boylan is the representative of the star nations on Earth and is the founder of the famous interstellar project Star Kids. The B-2 stealth bomber. Manufactured by Northrop Grumman, the Air Force describes it as a low observable, strategic, long-range heavy bomber capable of penetrating sophisticated and dense air defense shields. The stealth bomber has navigation and guidance systems directed by a classified artificial intelligence program. The B-2 gets extra lift in flight by turning on its electrogravitic fields along its wings and fuselage to considerably neutralize the pull of gravity. The US's Northrop B-2s cost about $1 billion each. The F-22 Raptor Advanced Stealth Fighter. It is built by a joint effort of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and Boeing's Phantom Works. In crude imitation of extraterrestrial starcraft, the guidance system of this F-22 incorporates special artificial intelligence, meaning that cloned nerve pathways patterned on star visitor brain tissues are incorporated into the semi-sentient and semi-autonomously functioning guidance system integrated with the aircraft. In addition, the F-22 has anti-gravity weight reduction capability, which is exercised selectively by the pilot, who is in mental connection with the AI guidance system, which activates the anti-gravity field generation as needed in coordination with the F-22's conventional jet engine thrust to effect the overall maneuvering of the vehicle. The F-35 Lightning II 5th generation stealth fighter. Built jointly by Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman and BAE, the F-35 similarly incorporates quasi-sentient artificial intelligence and anti-gravity weight reduction technology, retrieved and back-engineered from Star Visitors technologies, in addition to its jet thrust. The Lockheed Martin SR-72 Dark Star 6th generation 4,600 miles per hour hypersonic 89% gravity shielded stealth bomber. This advanced, super streamlined aerospace vehicle is the first 6th generation stealthy hypersonic surveillance reconnaissance strategic bomber. It has enormous range, extreme speed and low visibility because it is gravity shielded. The Lockheed Martin X-33. The X-33 incorporates full anti-gravity technology, but not much is known about this aircraft. Lockheed Martin, the company that builds it, only officially stated that the aircraft was actually in an advanced stage of construction, without, however, adding anything else. The Lockheed X-22. The X-22 is a two-man anti-gravity discoid craft. The late Colonel Steve Wilson, United States Air Force, stated that military astronauts trained at a secret aerospace academy adjacent to but separate underground from the regular Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs. These military astronauts then operate out of Beale and Vandenberg Air Force bases in Northern California. From those bases, these military astronauts regularly fly transatmospherically and out into deep space. The Lockheed X-22A anti-gravity disc is capable of achieving optical as well as radar invisibility. The TR-3A Pumpkin Seed. The Pumpkin Seed is a super-fast air vehicle, and its nickname is a reference to its thin, oval airframe whose contours resemble that seed. It is the craft identified as using pulse detonation wave engine technology for propulsion in a sub-hypersonic regime. The Pumpkin Seed then uses anti-gravity technology for reducing the vehicle's mass and for field propulsion at higher altitude and speed levels. As air breathers, these pulse detonation wave engines, PDWEs, can propel a hypersonic aircraft towards Mach 10 at an altitude in excess of 180,000 feet. When used to power a trans-atmospheric vehicle, the same PDWEs are capable of lifting the craft to the edge of space when switched to rocket mode. The Teledyne Ryan Northrop Grumman XH-75D or XH Shark anti-gravity helicopter. The XH Shark was manufactured by Teledyne Ryan Aeronautical Corporation of San Diego, now part of Northrop Grumman, who continue making updated versions. United States Air Force Colonel Steve Wilson first told Dr. Boylan of the existence of this craft and reported that many of these XH-75Ds were assigned to the Delta National Reconnaissance Organization division, which retrieves downed UFOs. Rogue elements within that division are also implicated in mutilating cattle as a psychological warfare program on the American public to try to get citizens to fear and hate extraterrestrials through assuming that aliens in anti-gravity craft are the ones cutting up their cattle. Of particular note is that the basic anti-gravity design of the XH-75D, compact nuclear fusion reactor powering an anti-gravity field generator, is the same basic format as modern Marine One presidential helicopters. Boeing's Phantom Works TR-3B Black Manta and its big brother, the TR-3A Astra. These are large, triangular anti-gravity crafts within the secret US spacefaring fleet. The TR-3B does not depend solely or principally on its hydrogen-oxygen rockets. It is a highly gravity-reduced aerospace craft manufactured in secret black programs by Boeing. The reduced gravity field it produces reduces the vehicle's weight by about 90%, so that very little thrust is required to either keep it aloft or to propel it at speeds of Mach 9 or higher. The Northrop Anti-Gravity Disc, designation unknown, dubbed the Great Pumpkin due to its brilliant orangish glow. It is manufactured by Northrop Grumman Advanced Concepts and Technologies Division in Palmdale, California. Dr. Boylan first saw these craft test flown in 1992 above the Groom Range ridgeline at Area 51, Nevada. Later, he saw the same intense burning bright orange gold craft that he had seen above Area 51 being test flown 60 miles north of Los Angeles at Northrop's Tehachapi Mountain installation northwest of Edwards Air Force Base. There, Northrop has its secret saucer manufacturing works buried deep inside the mountain. The TR-3A Astra spaceship. Boeing Phantom Works builds the TR-3A Astra spaceship, the larger and spacefaring version of the TR-3B. The TR-3 Astra also has a triangular frame, but is built to traverse deep space and operates at an interplanetary level as needed. The Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disc. Do the previous anti-gravity field propulsion craft constitute the current state-of-the-art in advanced aerospace craft? No, there have been advances beyond mere anti-gravity field propulsion. Quantum physics is now being used to revolutionize a variety of aerospace craft and their lift, propulsion and guidance systems. Considerable progress has been made since 1992, when a Northrop anti-gravity disc could slowly rise vertically from its flight pad and gradually reach flight altitude. But in 2005, the Northrop Grumman Quantum Teleportation Disc was able to instantly wink out from its flight pad and suddenly appear miles away at operations flight altitude without any visible approach. It is not a matter of the ionization field having been turned off during approach for stealth purposes. The ionization field accompanies the electrogravitic field propulsion. If the ionization field were turned off, the craft would have fallen from the sky. Rather, what seems to be the case is that Northrop Grumman engineers have incorporated quantum physics principles into the disk's lift and propulsion. Simply stated, Northrop appears to have harnessed quantum entanglement and quantum non-locality to achieve quantum teleportation for a man-made UFO. To an observer, the craft appears to simply cease to exist on the flight pad and instantly becomes visible several miles away, at say an altitude of 3,000 feet. If engineers keep using quantum technology to update anti-gravity vehicles, we could foresee the day when a fleet of US naval aircraft carrier anti-gravity quantum teleportation bombers suddenly wink out of view from the carrier deck and seconds later appear halfway around the globe at 35,000 feet over a target installation using quantum physics principles of non-locality and entanglement. The Boeing-Lockheed Airbus Consortium's Nautilus. This is an extremely classified, fully anti-gravity spaceship built to travel in deep space and between stars. It is the only one of the 14 US anti-gravity craft engineered to be able to leave our solar system altogether and travel to the stars. The deep space capability of the Nautilus is what Dr. Ben Rich, the head of Lockheed Martin's Advanced Projects Skunk Works, was referring to in a 1993 speech to UCLA alumni. He stated, "We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects." The Nautilus is shaped like a stubby metallic cylinder, somewhat like a short silver cigar, 1,000 yards long by 300 yards in diameter. With its interstellar travel technology, the Nautilus is extremely expensive to manufacture, $870 billion per copy. Thus far, only 5 have been built. The Nautilus is manufactured jointly by Boeing's Phantom Works, Lockheed Martin's Advanced Development Programs, and the Anglo-French EU consortium Airbus Industries. It is assembled at the sprawling underground facilities of Area 52, west of Area 51 on the Nevada National Security Site. A retired top Boeing executive confirmed to Dr. Boylan that Boeing's Phantom Works had teamed up with Europe's Airbus Industries to help manufacture the Nautilus secret spaceship. The Nautilus operates clandestinely out of underground hangars, 35 miles east of Brawley, California, within Mount Barrow, on the restricted Marine Corps Chocolate Mountain Aerial Gunnery Range east of the Salton Sea. Unlike other anti-gravity craft, the Nautilus is not operated by the US military services, but rather jointly by a partnership of the European Space Agency and NASA. It is restricted to peaceful uses only, at Star Nation's insistence, and only undertakes a visit to other solar systems with explicit prior permission of the Star Nations Alliance, official government of our Milky Way galaxy. The Hydro Aerospace Underwater Craft, HAUC, also known as Tic Tac. It is designed at Michelson Laboratory, Naval Air Weapons Station, China Lake, and built at Air Force Plant 42, Palmdale, California. It utilizes an autonomous gravity field generating magnetic field disruptor, or MFD. These HAUCs are the so-called Tic Tac spacecraft which Navy fighter jets' gun cameras have been videotaping and showing on TV news. The radical propulsion, lift, and maneuverability of these Tic Tacs are made possible thanks to an incredibly powerful electromagnetic field that essentially creates a quantum vacuum state surrounding the Tic Tac. This allows the Tic Tac to ignore aerodynamic or hydrodynamic forces and operate as though without inertial mass. This is key to the abilities of this hybrid craft to speed effortlessly through air, water, and space at incredible speeds, with virtually no air, water, inertial, or gravity resistance. The Hydro Aerospace underwater craft is equally operational at the bottom of the sea, on a water surface, in the air, and in space. Its multi-modes functioning is designed to make it a most versatile anti-gravity craft. With its range of operation, it can engage any opponent and invade them by instantly moving to another location, or to a quantum non-locality domain as necessary. The HAUC is a joint Star Nations human spacecraft. The HAUC's crew of 7 is interstellar integrated with 2 cosmonauts from Altair Aquila star system and 5 US Navy Marine aviator astronauts. The Altairians help not only with navigation and steering, but by using the quantum vacuum state, which the HAUC generates to give the craft anti-gravity lift, rapid propulsion, and no resistance from water or air. The Altairians as a people seek to avoid violence. Between the surrounding quantum vacuum state and the speed with which the HAUC operates, the Altairians' tactical defense theory is, if you can't keep up with us, you can't shoot us. The Altairians have mastered the defensive applications of utilizing the quantum vacuum zero-point energy field which the HAUC generates, so that they have no need for physical kinetic weapons, like lasers or cannons. The HAUC's operating range is from Earth's seabed to the Moon or Mars. The HAUC's technology has earned a US patent, craft using an inertial mass reduction device. That patent describes a craft using an inertial mass reduction device comprised of an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonance cavity, and microwave emitters. The microwave emitters create high-frequency electromagnetic waves throughout the resonant cavity, causing the resonant cavity to vibrate in an accelerated mode and create a local polarized vacuum energy, quantum, state, exhibiting repulsive gravity outside the outer resonant cavity wall. The HAUCs, or Tic Tacs, are designed at the Navy's elite Michelson Laboratory at Naval Air Weapons Station, China Lake, incorporating ET Tech and using extraterrestrial consultants. They are then manufactured 90 miles southwest at Air Force Plant 42, Palmdale, California. The US Navy and Allies Solar Warden Space Fleet has 44 HAUCs. It has been said that if the American people knew what the military has in their arsenal today, they would not believe it and would think that someone is fantasizing about George Lucas's next Star Wars film. But this is not science fiction. The implications of these advanced anti-gravity craft, designed by humans from extraterrestrial examples, are many. The United States and a small number of allies operate a variety of low-gravity and fully anti-gravity aircraft. However, some of these anti-gravity technologies are also in the possession of Communist China and autocratic Russia, ruled by a former KGB colonel. So what can we do about it? First, Dr. Boylan suggests keeping us informed about the dangerous and evil uses that anti-gravity and other quantum technologies can be put to. Then, oppose with all energies the policies and the development of weapon systems oriented towards offensive attacks from space. Also, encourage the declassification and release of advanced anti-gravity technology into the civilian sector, where its peaceful use can revolutionize transportation, clean energy generation, food production, housing projects, etc., and thus stop the advance of climate change. For years, rumors have leaked according to which the American armed forces, through covert operations, had perfected super-secret anti-gravity aircraft. A recent book, published in the United States, Alien Rapture, The Chosen, by Edgar Rothschild Fouché and Brad Steger, would prove this. Its contents refer to the stunning cover-up implemented since the late 1940s by the occult group MJ12 and reveal, for the first time, confidential information on technologies derived from reverse engineering projects on recovered alien ships. Tonight, says Fouché, the most unusual and secret aerospace vehicle in the world could fly over Phoenix, Arizona, the Gulf Breeze in Florida, Belgium, or your city. It is known as TR-3B, science fiction or reality. The triangular-shaped TR-3B has been credited with several recent UFO sightings, yet it was built from available materials as early as the early 1980s. In fact, this triangular nuclear aerospace platform was developed under the Aurora program, with funding from the SDI, the Strategic Defensive Initiative, the famous Star Wars program, and dark money. Controlling the whole operation are the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Organization, the structure responsible for the satellite detection of all aircraft, known and unknown, the NSA, the National Security Agency, and ARPA, the Advanced Research Project Agency, operating in Area 51. The costs for each vehicle would amount to $5 billion. Other manned or unmanned aircraft in the skies of the strangest shapes would have been developed with the help of alien technology. The Aurora program, the most secret project for the development of advanced aerospace aircraft, would be responsible for the Strategic Hypersonic Reconnaissance SR-75 penetrator, capable of reaching 8 times the speed of sound, and the SR-74 Scramp. The TR-3B aircraft's code name is Astra. The test flights of the tactical reconnaissance vehicle took place in the early 1990s within Dreamland in Area 51. The TR-3B flew in complete silence, hovering over Groom Lake for 10 minutes, then landed vertically. During the demonstration, a silvery blue light emanated from its hull. Some researchers believe this technology was developed by reverse engineering alien aircraft and programs such as the SR-74 and SR-75. At least $3 billion have been invested in the TR-3B since 1994. A snapshot of the aircraft was taken by a digital camera mounted on a C-130 transport aircraft, piloted by an Air Force Special Operations Sergeant in charge on a mission to support the TR-3B. The TR-3B's polymeric external structure, together with its sophisticated avionics, would react to electrical stimulation and, by changing colour, reflect and absorb radar waves, making it appear like a small aircraft or a flying cylinder. It would also be able to distort and confuse radar receptions, camouflaging its presence with radar echoes that can be associated with one or more aircraft and in different positions. Finally, it would be able to follow a target at very high altitudes for days or weeks if necessary. A ring plasma accelerator, the MFD, magnetic field disruptor, mercury-based and lubricated with barium, calcium and gold, would surround the rotating tail compartment. The Sandia and Livermore laboratories would be entrusted with the development of the technological back engineering of the MFD. It seems that the government is willing to take any measure to safeguard this project. The device in question would be capable of generating a rotating magnetic field, thanks to the conductive superplasma, interrupting or neutralizing the effects of gravity on an object, up to a level of 89%. Thrust for the TR-3B would be provided by 3 multi-control thrusters mounted at each lower corner of the triangular platform, fueled by either a hydrogen or methane and oxygen-based propellant. The aircraft would use 3 propulsion systems. Inside the atmosphere with a nuclear reactor, flying horizontally or vertically at a speed equal to Mach 9, in the upper atmosphere with hydrogen propulsion, and into orbit, burning hydrogen and oxygen together. This isn't anti-gravity. The latter, in fact, provides a repulsive force that can be used for propulsion. The MFD creates a break in the Earth's gravitational field above a mass thanks to its circular accelerator. The mass of the whole aircraft would be reduced by almost 90%, making the vehicle so light as to allow it to perform maneuvers superior to any other conventional aircraft, with the exception of UFOs. The TR-3B is a reconnaissance platform with indefinite autonomy, as it is initially propelled by a nuclear reactor. Many sightings of triangular UFOs would therefore not be attributable to alien aircraft, but to the ultra-top secret TR-3B. The NSA, the NRO, the CIA and the United States Air Force would have devised a cover-up using the airborne nomenclature, creating the TR-3, modified into the TR-3A, the TR-3B and the TR-2, 3 and 4, with suffixes added to confuse the situation. Each of these acronyms, in fact, represents a different aircraft and not the same aerospace aircraft. A TR-3A is nothing like a TR-3B. Some of these devices would be manned, others unmanned. Human technology has developed so rapidly in this century as to sometimes leave us truly perplexed, but today its reflections are seen more and more clearly and sharply, because the boundaries of the cosmos are getting even closer, despite the cloak of secrecy. Whether or not aliens exist, and many of us want to believe it, perhaps the only way we will ever find out for sure is if we take the leap into deep space ourselves, and that day may come sooner than expected.